start. Very good at the beginning of this workshop. So clearly you're going to need some tools to be a social media manager, and the fact that you're watching this shows me that you would have a computer, or at least a smartphone. It's probably better to have a computer to run this, and a reliable internet connection. And then sometimes it's it can, we have no control over that totally, but but a reliable internet connection is very helpful when you're dealing with clients and social media. And research tools and skills. So if you remember, like the most important part of strategy development is research. So things, tools that you can use to look things up, look online, conduct social listening and performance measurement and things of that nature, just so that you have all the information you need to build that strategy and keep enhancing.
And then tools and apps. So obviously, I assume you've all heard of Canva. It's definitely your best friend with this kind of industry. A lot of the time, your clients will ask you to do a million things, and a lot of them include, making up some kind of graphic tile for a giveaway or for a promotion and things like that. So getting to know Canva, I definitely say to get the premium subscription, because it allows so much, you can do so much more. And there's a lot of hacks and stuff on Instagram. People are doing reels of like really cool hacks that are really helpful. Scheduling tools to schedule all the content. There's a lot of free ones out there, like the Facebook Creator Studio. And then there's paid ones, obviously, that allow you to do more. But I would say just start out with the free ones and get to know them. They're all pretty like self-explanatory, as you can kind of learn them pretty easy. And then just editing apps, like I use Lightroom for photos, which you can use for free to a certain extent. Even there's so many apps on your phone you can get, video editing, stuff like that. Customer service and communication skills, like you want to make sure, I think the biggest thing when we get to the processes, it's like niching out that, but also you want to be personable, because at the end of the day, people will hire you down to your personality. And I've found that even like finding clients through just like the reels I've made for fun, they kind of see my personality and they're like, oh, cool, like I want to work with her. So I think like having that professionalism, but also being personable is really important. And patience and persistence for sure. You will get some clients that, for lack of the better word, are just a pain in the ass, and you kind of reevaluate, like, are they worth it? And sometimes they're worth it and you've just got to like persist. I think the biggest thing when you start out doing it as a student, you have to like remind yourself and the client sometimes that you're the expert. Like they hired you for a reason, and they definitely try to tell you what you should be doing, and kind of it gets a bit like you're like, oh well, am I the expert and I'm still learning? But like at the end of the day, you are. They've hired you for a job, and you've just got to be persistent in, I'm the expert, this is what I suggest, like even if you're doubting yourself. So yeah, I think that patience definitely is needed.
Yeah, and even sometimes, and every client's going to be different too. So some clients will want to be really hands-on, and then some clients go missing. So
Oh my God, yeah.
it's just learning how to navigate that, and it all comes with experience. So that's the thing. It's learning from every experience, and being patient, and the persistence too is you might lose clients, you might gain clients. It's just this ongoing sort of flow. So it's just not taking things personally, just learning from everything.
Yeah, and just keep going basically.
Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So where to start creating your brand? I kind of for ages was just freelancing under myself. Like you can get an ABN and not get a business name. You can just be your name or whatever you like. But when it gets to the business name, it's another story. So I think when you first start, just doing it under your own name is easy and free. And I think building a brand, whether you have like an Instagram brand name that you like or not, or whether you're just you, creating like a separate Instagram, like a business or a creator profile, that's really important, just to build up like a reputation, have somewhere to put the work you do, like showcase that. And for me, like I got to a point where I didn't have that and I wanted to create a brand name and really hash it out. Like I was doing all of these assignments where around branding, and I realized I hadn't actually done that for myself. I think you know what your brand is, but if you write it down and really hash it out, like your business why, your story, your values, what kind of colors and what your logo might be, like it really helps you create content, because it's like when you do the strategy, it gives you a vision and a goal and a purpose, and then all of it kind of comes together and everything you do aligns with that brand. So it's literally what we learn about marketing, doing it for other people. You need to do it for yourself, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, it is, and and picking, because this is how you're going to represent yourself. So if you think about it, you'll see Jesse's got a very distinctive brand, and with me, like people now just think, does she ever wear anything other than red? But red is my brand. So you'll notice like I have red and black and things like that around, and people sort of when they see my content and see me, they remember me, and they because of that the colors and the things that I use. And even with the agency Darana Digital, we have a very distinctive color palette that we use, and fonts and things of that nature, just so that people recognize us when we're in different places. So it's good, and it's actually a fun exercise to sit down and go, okay, who do I want people to see me as, and doing that and making decisions, and then being consistent with it, of course.
Yeah.
So selecting your services. So how do you recommend to do that, Jessie?
I think once you do the branding, that's another thing that becomes easier, because for me, like you built this brand on values and your strengths and all of that stuff. So then everything else is just pretty straightforward. It kind of comes to you because it all aligns. So for me, the services, like my business is called Oh Hello Social Co. And I went with Oh Hello because I thought like I'm quite friendly and like I want to be like welcoming and stuff. So it's like, hello, like it's always like a greeting and a welcome. And then for the services, obviously my business name has social in it. So I wanted it to be around more social stuff. And I mainly, like most of my income is from strategies. And I think like social media management is great to learn and start off. But again, you can only have so many clients before it gets a bit overwhelming. So it's good to offer other things that are other income streams. So I definitely think you start with your strengths. Like, what are you good at? Based on all of the subjects with Karen, like you can think, well, did I get good marks, or did I feel like I enjoyed doing a strategy or doing the content or doing the analytical side? You might be a real analytical brain and just love the reporting side, or you might like the content creation side. So you can kind of offer different things. There's a lot in product photography, for example, like there's a lot of money in that, and you could be that kind of brand, or you could be the management brand because you like having heaps of different hats and writing captions and that kind of thing. Or you could just you could do audits because you like the analytical side. You can look at their insights and be like, okay, well, this post did really well, so you need to be doing more of them, and that kind of thing. And then I think from there, you go off of your qualifications, your knowledge and your experience, not only like what you're good at, but what you're qualified to do. So like for mine, I knew like Google Ads is kind of a good income stream, but I'm not an expert and I'm not qualified in doing that. So I wouldn't offer that. And if you want to offer that, and if that's something that interests you, you definitely can go online and like do a bunch of free courses to learn how to do them. So I think it starts with, like, what am I good at? What are my strengths? And then what do you actually enjoy? Because you've got to be careful not to offer a bunch of services that you think, oh, I could do that, but then you actually hate doing it and it kind of shows, you know what I mean? Like you're like,
yeah,
I could do this, but I'm not having fun doing it. And then what your customers actually need, So if you're targeting those small businesses with the gap that can't afford the agencies, it's like, what are they constantly asking for? And how could you bridge that gap, whether it's something that you already are good at, or something like, say, for the Google ads, if you're getting a bunch of clients asking you for Google ads, then you can see, well, there's the demand there. Maybe I need to go and learn it so I can offer that. And then the last one, just, what your competitors offer. And just be careful, like, not to go on like someone like April Ford, because obviously they offer like everything. There's no way you as one person could do that. So you got to be realistic, maybe look at like some smaller agencies or other freelancers. And, a big thing at the moment is like the coaching calls is huge, because it's kind of, you can charge a lot, it's one-on-one, and it's like kind of quick money. But then later down the track, they might think, oh, she was really good, now I want to hire her. So there's just so many different avenues, I think, that you can go down.
Yeah, and that's right. Like, it's really got to come from a combination of things. The demand, because that's the thing. If you love doing a particular thing and no one wants it, then it's going to be very hard for you to run a business that way. So it's finding finding the demand first, and then finding something in there that you enjoy doing and that you're qualified to do. So yeah.
And you can start with just one and build it. Like, I've done that. You start with maybe just like the strategy and the social media management, and then as you go, more clients ask for more things, and you might then be able to offer more and like expand your services.
Absolutely. What to charge now? If I had $1, well, ask this question, I would be rich. Maybe I should charge when people ask me this question. So this is what I advise. If you're still a student, or I like to call you now an emerging professional, so you're not completely graduated yet, but you're still learning and you want to earn while you learn, I recommend between, say, $25 to $35 an hour, depending on your level of experience. And the thing is, though, it's very different. It can be very different for whoever's asking. So there have been students who have already been working in the field and they've come back to uni to study, so they can charge a lot more because they've already had that experience. But if you're just starting out, I recommend around 25 to 35. You've got to factor in your time, so it's got to be worth your while. So you don't want to be working 20 hours a week and getting like $50. Like, that's not worth your while, and that person's getting an excellent deal. So you need to factor in that, and you've got to also pay for what it costs for you to be a social media manager. So if you're paying for a Canva subscription, you need to factor these costs into what you're charging as well, because you don't want to be paying that extra. You want your clients to be paying for you to use those products for them. So that's really important. Also, seeing what other people charge. So there's other places online where that people actually have their prices on their website. So just to get a good idea there. But and you can also do pricing per service. So rather than, you can either charge by the hour or you can do by service. So at our agency, we charge a certain amount for an audit, a certain amount for the strategy, and then combos and things like that. And then Jessie, you mainly do packages, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. So when I first started, I tried to do by the hour, and even at 35 an hour, if you're doing like even a few weeks worth of posts, I found that like it actually didn't take me that long. So I was only really maximum being able to charge 2 hours. And if I did that, I couldn't even really justify doing it per week, because I could schedule a month's worth of content in 2 hours. But then it doesn't really seem fair that you get $70 for that. You know what I mean? So I kind of then worked out, okay, well, what are other social media managers or agencies charging? And they all do it as a package, like a weekly fee or a monthly fee. And I think the more you kind of add into that, like even if you say what it includes, which we'll get to as examples, but it makes it look more valuable to people. And if you're kind of doing it competitively, like I think most agencies charge around $600 a month. If you're offering $400 a month, you're still getting $100 a week. And it's a very competitive price because you're a lot cheaper than the other agencies and stuff. So I just found like, it may take you 15 minutes to create 5 Canva tiles, but all of your expertise, your degree and everything, like you said, and your subscriptions and everything have to come into it. And also you're, like I said before, you're not able to have too many clients. You have to think about, like, if you had 10 and they all gave you $100 a week, then that's a lot. That's $1,000 a week. But if you're only charging them $50 each, it's like less, and then you can't really earn more in that sense, if that makes sense. So yeah. I stick to the packages and just describe what's in them. The more you charge, the more you include, type of thing.
Yeah. And let's see, and that you made a really good point there, Jessie, about you're not charging for the time it takes you to do it, you're charging for your expertise. So when people ask you, why is it so much? That's why. Like, you're not. It might take. You might be able to whip it out in like 10 minutes, but the amount of time and skill it takes you to do that, like, it's taken you time and effort to actually to get to a point where you can do that. Yeah. Another point I want to raise is and I'm getting better at this myself, right? So it's telling people how much you charge. And asking them to pay that can be quite daunting when you're starting out, even, and getting used to doing that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of doubts, I think, we may have about our expertise, and sometimes you're sort of a bit timid to talk about how much you are worth and your services are worth. So the main thing is that, like, I heard this great advice on a podcast, and the woman on there said, just say it as though you're asking them to pass the salt at dinner. So rather than like getting all worked up and scared about it, just say matter of factly, and that's the price. And I think with the packages, I think they're great because everything's there, everything's included, and you don't have to wiggle or change any of it. You're like, that's it. So you either pay it or you won't. So
yeah, I think another way as well is working out like what you need per week to live on, and kind of working out that number, which would be good, and then working out like maybe how many clients you would need to cover that, and working out roughly, like, if they all gave you 100 and you had 5, could you live off 500 a week, like that kind of thing. And keeping in mind that you can increase your prices. Like, it's good to give them a term. So maybe you do a 3-month contract at $400 a month, and then you put in your contract, like, subject to increase. So maybe then 3 months down the line they want to renew, you might say, so we are increasing our prices to $450, or you kind of just go as you, and each new client you might be like, I might try and charge them $50 more and see if they're cool with it. And a lot of the time, like, even really well established social media managers that I have spoken to have said, like, they had a client the other week that they were like, oh, it's going to be this price. And the business was kind of like, okay, like, that's a good deal. And then you're kind of like, oh, I thought that was a lot. Like, you're guessing, like, will they think, how dare you try to rip me off like that? Or will they think that's a bargain? And you're like, oh, I should have charged more. I should have charged less. Like, you've just got to experiment. Like, if you really want the client, it's good to ask what their budget is. But then there's also the risk of them telling you a low number to try and get a deal. It's so hard. You've just got to go, like, change it as you go and experiment and see what works for you and what works for them.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask more. So there'll be other people who will be willing to pay that. It's better to ask for more than for less, because when you do that, and because we'll talk about finding clients and word of mouth, if you start charging minimal rates, the word will get out that you charge minimal rates, and you will have heaps of clients, but you'll be the work that involved in servicing those clients. It's better to have maybe, a few clients who pay a lot more than, 10 or 20 who will pay a little bit, just for your own peace of mind and your own working hours. It's better to go for bigger. I remember seeing, actually, Gary Vee talked about the first time he was asked to speak and get paid for it, and he just thought, stuff it, I'm going to say $5,000 and to see what they'd say, and they said yes, and he was like, oh my god, he charges like $100,000 now, But he started off just going, I'm just going to put it out there, and they went for it. So you've got nothing to lose. I'm not saying charge $100,000 for your social media management. But yeah, don't be scared to ask for what you're worth.
Yeah, I think just kind of fake it till you make it, like act confident, no one will question it type of thing. And I think as well, like people, you'd be surprised, no matter what you put in the contract of what it includes, you will always get those customers or those clients that are messaging you at 10 p.m. at night, or are calling you on the weekends, or are constantly like the hard work clients. And it's like, if you're only charging them 25 an hour for 2 hours a week, and yet they constantly are asking you to change things or like put an extra post up or whatever it is, and it's like, this is not worth it, you know what I mean? So starting on those packages, and then you can kind of increase on the clients that are more hard work, or make it clear to them that they can't contact you at all hours. Like it all kind of comes into it. Like you soon realize, I think my first client, I charged $50 a month, and it was like a post every day. And I was like, what was I doing? You know, it's so hard.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just so don't do that. But you can charge more than that. But yeah, so just that's it. Don't be scared to ask for what you're worth, and don't be scared. Like there'll be times, we haven't covered it in here, but with clients where sometimes a client, you'll need to say goodbye to a client who is causing you a lot of stress as well. Like you're not obligated to stay. And when we talk about contracts coming up, you'll see that there is always like an out in the contract. So you're not bound to stay with someone on your books who isn't treating you well either. So remember, it's an agreement between two people.
Yeah.
So here's some examples Jesse's put up of some packages.
Yeah, so this is just these were just Canva templates, and I kind of tweaked them a bit. But this is just from what I've seen. I've done a lot of research on all the agencies, and I've worked for a few smaller agencies. And I think this is like a rough indication of what they're charging. And I would say like doing it as like a monthly package is ideal. I've seen it done a few ways. I've seen agencies charge per month for daily posts, or like every second day posts or something like that. Or I've seen it done like this, where you charge for like 15 posts a month, which is the same as every second day, or 25 or 30 type of thing. And then you have to think about how many platforms you're doing. Most of them, I've put one social platform for the $600 bronze one, but most do Facebook and Instagram, I would say, because it's, when you're scheduling, it's pretty easy, especially Facebook Creator Studio, to just tick the Facebook as well. And it depends how intense you're going, whether you want to make separate strategies for each platform. Facebook's a hard one in my opinion, but yeah. And then it's just see how, what I said about adding value, it's like caption writing is in the package, but sure, you'd think surely that comes in it anyway, but writing it there kind of just adds that extra value, but you're not doing anything extra. And it's the same with the hashtag research. You might spend an hour researching what their competitors use. There's heaps of apps to generate hashtags. So you might make like a page of different hashtags, and it would take you an hour, but they're paying you per month for that. And, you might update it every now and then, but it's not going to take you long. So things like that. Engagement is a big one that people are happy to pay for, of you just replying to comments and commenting on other people's posts. Monthly reporting can be super simple as well, just kind of giving them even some screenshots. Like there's some good programs out there that generate really cool graphs and stuff, or you can just do it. Like I wouldn't suggest spending too much time on it, because then it's not worth your money. But even just kind of a brief report of the month, or depending, Instagram only does 7 days sometimes, but you can just tell them what their best post was and a little summary, exactly like we did with Karen's insights. What was it, the subject that you did reporting and stuff?
Social media monitoring and measurement.
That's the one. So
and social media management as well.
Yeah. And then with the other one as well, like same kind of thing. You might include graphic tile design, or you know what I mean? So like the more you're giving them, the more you can charge. And this is kind of a good way as well to bridge that fear of will they reject the price, because if you're giving them options, then they can take one. So you can offer like even $1,000 a month, and then you can offer like a $600 a month, and they might be like, oh, okay, well, $600 sounds reasonable next to that. Or, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of strategic ways you can go about it, and giving them the options is a good way for you to have the big prices out there, but for them to have multiple choices type of thing.
Yeah. And the thing is too, like doing that, it's sort of because there's in that gap in the market, there's different segments as well and different types of people. And so some are just like, I'll pay the 1,000, just do it. I don't even think about it. And then there's other people like, oh, I don't have that much, but I can afford a little bit. And so, and then they go with that. So it also talks to different segments.
Yeah. And if you're doing a strategy first, which I would charge separately, like for these kind of packages, social media management, I always charge a startup fee, which is I usually charge like $200 for them to start up. And that includes like me kind of getting them a Dropbox sorted so they can drop content or we can share content, putting them on the scheduling tools and doing like a mini strategy type of thing. But I also do a thing where I can charge like $600, say, for like an in-depth strategy and brand audit. And then after that, they kind of want to go with the social media management because they see it all and they're like, wow, like I don't have time to do this. And then you can kind of suggest a package because you've done the strategy, you know their brand. So you might suggest, well, to be honest, I think you should be posting every day based on the strategy we did. And then they'll kind of like take your suggestion. So it kind of just gives you that extra credibility to do a strategy as well.
Yeah, and it's like, and we talked about moving people through the customer journey. So it sort of does that. So you give them like a little bit of information, and then we can talk about it more when we talk about gaining and finding clients. Even doing like a free workshop sometimes often brings people in, and then they can learn something, and it's just to start the relationship. So there's different ways to move them through.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Now, ABN. So now the ABN, it's an Australian business number, and so you need it if you're going to provide and charge for any goods or services. It sounds scarier than what it is. It sounds more challenging than what it is. It's easy. So basically, I'll take you to the website. We won't go through the whole thing, but I'll show you where it is, and I'll put the link under this video when it's on YouTube, so you can go through there and have a look. So you will be it's an 11-digit number, and it's given to people who provide goods and services for payment. So you will be known as a sole trader because you would just be a freelance social media manager. So you won't employ staff at this stage. You'll just be on your own. You need to put this on your invoices, which we'll talk about a bit later in the videos coming. And it is free. So there seems to be some misconception that it costs money to get an ABN, and it's not. It's absolutely free. And so let's go to the website. So can you see that? Can you see the website? Great. So applying for an ABN. So here's a little video. I think it's very short and it's quite cute. So why don't we play it?
Thinking about applying for an Australian business number? There are certain obligations when you have an ABN, but you also need to be entitled to one before applying. To be entitled for an ABN, you need to be carrying on a business. This means you are providing products and services to your customers and not working in someone else's business. Information from your ABN allows customers to check that your registration is current and is used in the planning and development of communities around Australia. So it's important to keep your ABN information up to date. That's your obligation. It's also your responsibility to complete all lodgements, such as BAS, where necessary. To learn more about ABN entitlement and what your obligations are, go to abr.gov.au/ABN obligations.
Okay, so here you just have to hit this button and it will take you through the steps. So it's actually quite a simple process. It's just taking a bit long to load at the moment. It's thinking. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's going to load. but it's a very simple process. It goes step by step. It asks you for certain information, but the main thing is, we'll jump back to the presentation. So the main thing is to select sole trader on there, and once you have that, it means you can then start charging for your social media management services. Now, your business name. So, Jess, do you want to talk more about that? So, because as we said, you don't need one to start. If you're just going to be a freelancer, you can just use your own name. But if you want a business name, you do need to register it.
Yeah. So, I just freelanced as a sole trader under my name for years, like while I was at uni and stuff. And then recently, when I was kind of ready to make it a bit more of a serious thing and put a lot more effort into it, I thought like, okay, I need to do the branding. And with that, you can do the branding without registering the business name, but you do run the risk of it being taken like after you've started using it even. So I think like for $37 for 1 year, it could be worth doing if you have a name that you really, really want. But keep in mind, like, you have to do a lot of thinking, because once you bought it, it's hard to then change. You know what I mean? Like, I found the process of thinking of a business name really difficult. A lot of like sticky notes and, you know, whiteboards and all sorts of just kind of brainstorming different ideas. And then you find one you really love, and then you look up there's a website to check, is it the ASIC website where you check whether it's available, and then it's taken. So you're devastated because you thought that was really the one. And it's just like a whole process. So definitely kind of brainstorm a lot. Wait until you're really ready to commit to actually putting time and effort towards it. Like, I would suggest while you're at uni to just freelance under your own name. And then once you finish uni, if you're like, okay, I want to like actually make this a business and run my own business, then that's when you start to think about the business name, because that's when you start paying for things. And if you're going to get the business name, you also want to get the domain and the social media names, which domains usually cost extra as well. So it's like you want to make sure you're covered on all bases for that name.
Yeah, and so we'll go to and you register it through ASIC. So let's go to the website. And again, it's very user friendly. It looks scary and corporate, but it's actually very user friendly. So there's even like a help me decide tool, so you can work out things around your business. And it's all about your business. What is your business name and things like that, to give you information around that. So we might as well play this guy as well, talking about what a business name and how to get one. We might as well watch it just to see, because it's really good information.
A business name is the name that a business uses to trade under. For example, this cafe is called the Coffee Party Cafe. Unless you're using your own name, like John Smith, for your business, you actually have to register your business name with ASIC. You might think that registering a business name means that you own it. I was surprised to learn that it doesn't. People can still register and use similar names. If you want exclusive use of the name, you actually need to register it as a trademark with IP Australia. Once you've chosen a name for your business, it's probably a good idea to check with both ASIC and IP Australia that no one else has registered it. I originally wanted to call this Cafe Coffee, but when I checked with ASIC, the name was already taken. Once you've decided on a name and you're sure that it's available, there are a few things that you should sort out. You'll need an Australian business number, or ABN. You can apply for one through the Australian Business Register website, so I'd recommend starting there. You can also get an AusKey there, which is a secure login that you can use to interact with government online services, such as the ASIC website and the Australian Tax Office, or ATO. It certainly makes life easier. You should also check with the Australian Business Licence and Information Service that you have all the licences you need to trade. If you're planning on creating a website for your business, you should check with the Domain Name Administration Authority, to see if the domain name you want is available. You'll need an ABN if you wish to buy a .com.au or a .net.au domain name. And that's pretty much all you need to consider before registering your business name. You can see that it's a pretty simple process, but if you get stuck, just check out the user guides on ASIC's website. They're very helpful. You should also check out ASIC's other videos on YouTube.
I know they'll be very exciting, but the thing is they've made these tools and these resources just to help people who haven't done it before walk through the process. So they're really user-friendly. So let's get back to the next slide. So as we said, you don't need a business name. So to start off simply, just use your own name and just register your ABN. That's the simplest way to go ahead. And then, as Jessie recommended, once you're actually out and wanting to do this full time, then consider having a business name. But even then, some people still don't. They just still, run things very successfully as a sole trader. And insurance. So it is recommended that there's a thing called professional indemnity insurance. So it just covers you in case anything you do for your clients on social media comes back to haunt you. So they lose reputation, they lose customers, this is a very rare event when it happens, but it's just sort of extra support and insurance, really, reassurance that if anything goes wrong, you won't lose your business and your livelihood. It will cover that. It'll cover things like getting legal advice and that sort of thing. And it's normally around $250 a year. So again, that's when you're talking about how to charge your clients. It's another thing to factor into those costs as well, so you're not out of pocket paying for it. But Jessie was saying that in some businesses she works in and in her own, she often puts a clause in her contract just saying that she will not be held liable for anything that happens as a result of what she posts. So do you want to talk more about that, Jessie?
Yeah, it's a bit of a minefield of what insurances to get if you're quite small. And it's more, like Karen said, just to protect you for if they got hacked because maybe someone found the password through you, or maybe you post something that the caption ruins their reputation or anything like that, or you spend too much of their budget. There's so many things, but there are ways around it. I would just suggest getting professional advice, whether it is a lawyer or someone who does it. I freelance for an agency, and I know that they use just clauses in their contract rather than paying for the insurance. So you just kind of make sure what works for you, really, and what you need to be covered on, for sure.
Yeah, but make sure, you just go to a legal professional, or there's a link there to this CGU professional indemnity insurance is used a lot within the social media industry, so particularly by sole traders. So there's different options there, but the main thing is just making sure you're covered in one way or another in case it's just risk management. So as you know, social media, you don't know how it's going to go. So it just helps to minimize that risk and impact on you if things don't go right.